invented the book tour. And we did various things in New York, and then we had friends in Detroit and Chicago and San Francisco and Los Angeles. And so we had them, our friends, organize book signings and demonstrations for us.
Yeah.
I remember our first demonstration was very ambitious. We had a Roquefort quiche, and we had a fish mousse with fillets of sole around it, and we had something. Oh, and we did Madeleine cookies.
Oh, I love those.
And that was really quite elaborate, but people ate it all up very
I could imagine. I think that also, in terms of your television show, when you were asked to come on WGBH, which is an educational channel, it was your idea to bring some eggs and some frying pan.
Well, I thought this was just a book review, and I thought that you can't. I mean, it's much better to do something. So I brought along a hot plate, and I made an omelet, and I had my big copper beg beating bowl. So I whipped, so nobody had ever seen anything like that before.
Yeah, I read in the book that it was just such a hit. They asked you to make it a series, and I have to tell you, from my recollection of your early shows, my favorite was when you went to France and you made bouillabaisse. You visited all the fishwives.
That was wonderful.
I love that. And you were speaking French with everybody, and all the fishwives looked exactly like you would think a fishwife would look. They were. Was it? Did you have to bargain?
That was lots of fun.
Yeah. Did you have to bargain for fish?
Oh no. They had a group of women there who I think were there kind of to be amusing, because they would stake fights with each other and just sort of loud and screaming.
You know, it's really interesting.
Fun.
I noticed that you have a recipe for bouillabaisse in your book with Jacques Lebrun, but when I make bouillabaisse, I use a lot of saffron, and it's great, but it never tastes as wonderful as it does in the Mediterranean, either in Provence or... What is the secret, do you think?
Well, you have to get the right fish.
Right.
And you have a good, strong base and everything like that.
Do you use anise?
Well, I thought the way I make it, it seems to me it tastes just as good as it does over there.
Yeah. Well, I found the secret is using Chilean sea bass. Have you ever made a bouillabaisse?
I've never tried it with that.
Oh, it is excellent. It is absolutely excellent.
Good.
It's really good.
Well, we don't have that Mediterranean fish, the rascasse, a little red fish with very spiny dorsal fins.
Oh, I see.
That's supposed to be an essential fish, whether or not... Well, it is if you're living over there.
Yeah. Now, you were in China and India too, I believe.
Ceylon, and we passed through India, but we were mostly in Ceylon and in China. But that was during the early 40s, and it was medieval then. I don't think Chongqing, I'd even recognize now, because it was a small capital city. And there were no big buildings, and it was very, very provincial indeed. If they had a fire, the fire department would come out in their dragon costumes and dance around it.
Oh,
they really didn't have the wherewithal to put out the fire.
Yeah. Well, I know that you really did like Chinese food.
Oh, love it.
Do you like, what about Indian food? Have you tried to make it yourself?
Paul got a terrible case of bulimic dysentery, and when he was over there, and he would never touch Indian food at all. He blamed alcoholic. So I don't know Indian food.
Yeah. Your courtship,
I love Chinese.
Yeah. Your courtship with Paul is so interesting because it went on for a while, didn't it?
Oh,
long. Were you engaged?
Well, we weren't engaged, really. We were sort of stalking each other.
Right.
Over there, we were in Ceylon in China. Then we came back here, and then we thought we should look at each other's families.
Yes. And he had a twin brother.
Yeah, twin brother. And we all got along very nicely, so then we got married.
Yeah. That's, he used to teach at Harvard?
No, he taught in France, in the Dordogne. And then he came back here and he taught briefly in Cambridge, Mass, to a Shady Hill school. And he decided that he didn't like a child-centered school.
Oh, I see.
He felt it was too permissive. Now,
Have some water. It's okay. Herb, what is the time?
Very well, he came.
50.
When he came back here, he started out at the Shady Hill School as a school teacher. But he found he didn't like a child-centered school.
Yeah, I see. Well, you know what's really interesting is that there's an article about you in the New York Times, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, that had the whole town talking. Apparently, when you go out to dinner with a large group...
Excuse me.
Sure.
Okay.
When you go out to dinner with a large group, you like to have everybody have the same thing.
Well, they kind of exaggerate that. I'm getting awfully tired of always passing around a plate.
That's true.
I don't think it's any fun.
No, and also...
If someone will offer me a little bit, I'll taste
Yeah.
it, but I don't like to give away my food.
Yeah, exactly, especially with portions so small these days. But I think that also the more important issue is that the chef creates taste to go together. And when you have different bites of different things, it confuses the palate.
Very, very confusing, I think. And it's messy.
Yeah, it is messy. And also you like butter instead of margarine. Is it because it's a real...
I would never think of the other spread. I have never mentioned it. I think, well, my point of view is moderation and small helpings and no seconds and no snacking.
Exactly.
And a little bit of everything.
Exactly. Robert Mondavi said the same exact thing.
Exactly.
And I know that together you formed the American Institute of Wine and Food. Now, what was your thinking? How did you two come together to form this institution?
Well, there was a professor in Antioch College called John Rumstad, and he had the idea of having something like the American Institute of Wine and Food, and we all happened to be together in Santa Barbara at the chancellor's of the University of Santa Barbara's house, and we were discussing, why don't we form some kind of a committee for the study and preservation of food?
Yes.
And the chancellor at Santa Barbara, Huttenbach, said, you don't want to get into academia, you'll just get into trouble with an academic. Try to get an academic department, why don't you be an institute? So then and there we formed it.
Yeah. He is the nicest guy. And just like you said, moderation, smaller portions. McGreed, his wife, 2 glasses of wine with dinner.
And then have a good time.
Exactly.
Forget that. I think that's very important.
Exactly. I think that food is really where you get your vitamins and minerals, and having anything that's artificial is detracts from you as an individual. I was at a lecture at Harvard last weekend, and the Chinese have yin and yang food. Have you heard about that?
I don't know which it is.
Yeah, well, when they create a meal, they like to have a certain amount of yang and a certain amount of yin. So a lot of times if somebody in the family isn't feeling well, they'll create a special arrangement.
Well, what is a yang food?
A yang food, I think, is a tangy food, like vinegar or something sharp, and maybe a yin food is something more mild. But it's basically food is medicine. Which is kind of interesting.
Food is fun, but you go up to the Chinese and they're having a great deal of fun eating.
They are having fun eating, and they're so thin.
I was just at a Chinese restaurant here in Boston the other day, and the whole family was there. Great-grandmother to tiny baby, and they were just having a wonderful time.
Yes, exactly. What do Boston is full of young chefs who are doing very well. What do you like best about today's crop of young chefs?
Well, what I like about, say, Boston chefs is that everybody's together. I think there are 1 or 2 who are not quite part of the group for their own reasons, but
right.
It's very welcoming. I know we saw Alice Waters just the other